Argos will win for you. Pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cup's won. Go Argos, go, go, go. Until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cup's won. Go Argos, go Toronto, go. Go Argos, go, go, go.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 4. Episode 14 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co-hosts Nick Small and Chris Pomay, a weekly independent talk show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. I hope everyone is doing well, and I'm going to bring my guest, or not my guest, my co-host Nick Small. Little technical glitch there, but we're wrapping up the 2025 season, and again, me and Nick have to break down another tough Argos lost, and the Argos are now 5-11, eliminated from the playoffs for the first time since 2019. Everyone's like, what about 2020? There was no football CFL due to the pandemic, so this is the first Argos off year in 5 years, and the first time they've missed the playoffs out of under Ryan Dinwiddie. And I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. We've only got a couple more shows left before the season wraps up. And Nick, thoughts on the game against Hamilton and this whole season in general?
Yeah, we can put all the speculation aside. We can stop racking our brains. I can stop trying to figure out ways that they could go about saving their season. It's officially over. So now the team has to move into the mindset of jobs. Jobs are what ultimately comes down on the line now. We're going to see that in the Saskatchewan game and in the Calgary games, the last two games of the season. The Argos have a bye week on the final week of the year, so they only have 2 more games left to play, while most have 3. Lot to look into, see how things go. It's going to be interesting too, because we already know that both Nick Arbuckle is going to be done for the season, so it most likely means that we're going to see Jared Dagey probably start this coming week in Saskatchewan, but also potentially Tucker Horn to get some time in one of these 2 games. And then the other big news that came out only like an hour before we went live is that Wyndham McManus is also being shut down for the year. So among other people, we may see another couple of guys who are on multi-year deals. Maybe we'll see them who are shoo-ins for next year get a bit of a break, and then that will lead to open opportunities, almost like not quite preseason, but definitely situations where the team's going to look at players who they might be on the bubble to re-signing next year or not. Yeah.
Well, in most cases, Nick, in pro sports, when a team goes 5-11 after winning a championship the year before, the fan base, we want the coach fired, we want the GM fired. I haven't heard any of it, and I'm going to say this too. I still think Ryan Dinwiddie is a good coaching staff, a good head coach, and obviously he deserves a mulligan. Now, if next year goes as poorly as this year, then but I think definitely he'll be back next year. Now, I do think there's going to be changes on the roster, obviously, but also I do think there's going to be a couple changes on the coaching staff. I don't know for sure, but my gut feeling is there are going to be a few changes to that staff as well. And we've got Rick from Hamilton Sports Central on. Good evening, gents. And he's watching on YouTube, by the way. Please check out the Hamilton Sports Central on YouTube, and Rick, his podcast as well for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He wants to say to you, Nick, that's okay, Nick and Chris. At least you're not like a certain Argo fan who has to get a picture in a Tiger Cats jersey. I think I know who that is. And as long as Nick doesn't lose, Jack say, okay, we'll be happy. Okay,
Yeah.
Kassar,
Yeah.
Kassar.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So in terms of like what might change, I don't think there's going to be a ton of changes in the coaching and roster management department. Maybe a coordinator here, or like something like a kind of a a lower position on the totem pole, but I don't really expect a whole lot of change. Like, let's not forget, this is also a team that's won 2 Grey Cups and a 16-2 record in the last 4 years. And there
Yep.
was already a ton of controversy surrounding the team just coming into the season. As we know, didn't see Chad Kelly at all this season with his injury. Just the way the recovery time didn't really work out. We saw the drama surrounding Kadeem Carey being a late scratch, a late cut from the roster after camp. And I mean, there was a lot of things that the team actually did quite well. For the longest time, the D line was actually the best in the league. Like, everybody was talking about all the guys who went to Edmonton, and Toronto's defense, Lanier still had more sacks himself than the entire Edmonton defense, comprised mostly of guys that were formerly on the Argos. So you got to use it as an opportunity now to build it up.
But you can't keep everything the same. Like,
well, yeah,
sure.
that's exactly it.
Yeah. That's my point. I'm not saying major changes to the coaching staff. I do see there's going to be 1 or 2 changes, but this roster, they can't keep it exactly the same. That's why these 2 next games, okay, technically they don't mean much in the standings, but these guys that are on this team still are playing for jobs for next year. And as for the Argos, I'm going to be honest with you right now, Nick. I think they've got to fix the O-line. They got to fix the D-line. They got to get help in the secondary, especially. And everyone's like, Chad Kelly will rescue us next year. Chad Kelly has now missed 27 games in the last year and a half. That's almost 2 years of football. And you expect him to come back and to be playing at an MOP level? I don't know if even his injury was pretty severe. You don't know if he's ever going to be the same quarterback. So the quarterback situation next year, too, is kind of in my opinion.
Well, if you ever see Chad Kelly at practice, I can definitely tell by like ego and arm strength alone that that's not an issue. Is he going to be like top tier MOP going in after this longer break? Probably not. It might take a couple games to get back to it, but I'm not really worried about Chad Kelly specifically. The things where it really comes down to have been kind of those issues in the secondary this year, the issues in the offensive line. And looking back at the last couple of years, like when we had the 16-2 year, a lot of it comes back down to injuries, and just simply there comes a time where your second string guys can do the job almost to the same level as the first string guys, and we simply have ran out of talent in the well. And this isn't just an Argonauts thing. We saw it with Winnipeg. The last 2 years they won the Grey Cup, and then the last 3 they've lost in the finals. They've run out of talent. You look before that in Calgary. Calgary had been in the Grey Cup several years in a row, won a couple, and then they ran out of talent in the well. So it's just a natural cyclical progression, a thing that happens. Like, as much as you want to try to find, the next big star, the next Derek Sluka, the next Jake Hirschlow, the next Qantas Stiggers from a couple of years ago, you just eventually lose those guys to free agency. But what comes different this year then is that now, rather than us losing guys, now we're in a better position where we might actually be able to get either some of those guys back or some new guys from other teams.
By the way, the Argos also need to address their running back game. I know you're more of a passing guy, Nick, but their running game this year was atrocious. And you're not going to win many games in pro football when you're only getting 25 yards or less a game. So they've got to find out. They got to get themselves a number 1 running back, and they have to get some kind of running game going, because teams this year are like, okay, the Argos, we'll just worry about the passing game. So I think John Murphy and Mike Pimbo Clements and Dimwitty and the Argos management is going to have a very busy offseason, because there's a lot of work to be done to get this team going for next year as well. Nick, we got another comment from Rick. He wants to ask us, here's an Argo question. Wow, with how well last season's success with the secondary and the 2 DCs, defensive coordinators, How did that? How did that did this year? What are you guys thought on one or two?
Yeah, well, I'm personally not much of a fan of the two coordinator system, regardless of who it is. I think you kind of need one guy to be the head coordinator and really be responsible for the decision making process. I think too many times this year with the coaching by committee, it sometimes left too many gaps, and I think the Hamilton game this week was a perfect example of it. How many times, like in the very beginning of the game, there were guys left completely wide open and uncovered because of miscommunication. It wasn't just a pure bust in coverage because some guy like turned around or too late and didn't see the guy whip past him. Like there was literally nobody who even was in that section to pick a guy up in that game. So I think you kind of gotta look more towards having one coordinator, and that would be probably more than anything. If I wasn't going to change anything on the actual personnel, I would probably say, okay, this is the head coordinator. And to be fair though, we don't really know exactly the specifics of how the Argos defense is ran. But yeah, I think even just for looks, I think it's better to have one guy accountable as sort of in charge of everything than having the sort of by committee approach.
Get another comment from Ghost. Ghost is watching on YouTube. Hey, how are you guys are going? How are you guys doing? We're doing well. Thank you for watching, Ghost. By the way, anyone watching on live stream, if you got comments, questions for me and Nick, please put them in the comments section as well. And Hamilton Sports Central, the benefits that I got, the benefits that you have is your management is good at scouting. That's true. The Argos have done a really good job with scouting, and I think that's going to be important in this offseason because I do think they're going to need to make some changes with the CFL, like with the draft specifically. But also, I would like to know what their salary cap situation is going in the offseason because if they have some extra money, they might be able to bring some guys back to this organization next year,
The the
possibly.
thing the thing that's going to be really interesting, I think, is that like typically the Argos have scouted well, like we said,
Yep.
but where they've really kind of struggled this year again is the O line. Like it doesn't matter if you have the best running back in the world if your O line can't do that run blocking, which they
Nope.
largely did not this year.
No.
That's an area that most certainly needs addressing. And then like some of the guys that they've picked up from other players did turn out to be really good. I mean, Andrew Chatfield
Yep.
Jr.,
Yep.
Lanier the second.
Yep.
I really like Jamin Pelly actually, and Correa did okay. I thought Brandon Dozier was a really good pickup this year. Kind of late to, I think he finally found a guy who could really kind of fit that will linebacker position. Sorry, Sam linebacker position well. So you had pieces there that did okay, but then yeah, you had guys who have come in within the last year or two and have really kind of grown. I've been quite impressed by Willie Drew playing that field side corner position. I thought still got some getting used to, but I thought he did okay. And yeah, I mean the receiving core, I'd still put against anybody in the CFL. I mean, like I'm just looking at the list of names between like Ungerer, Grant, Matal, Hurst, Lowe, Polk, and Coxie and Daniels who have been injured.
They're not going to be able to keep them all, and I think there will be a couple that will be gone. And Devers Daniels, I don't think will be back. Coxie, obviously, once he's cleared to play, he'll be back. But I just have a feeling he won't be back, Daniels, and I don't think Polk will be back either next year. We'll see. We'll see. The Argos do have their strongest unit is their wide receiving core, but I do think there'll be some changes there as well. As for the running game, McMahon, do you think he is the number one running back in this league? I know he had a lot of injuries to deal with this year, but do you think if he can stay healthy, he can actually be a legitimate number one back in this league like Greg Bell of the Tiger Cats?
Yeah, that's the big if, and I think just with how many injuries he's sustained, I don't think you can rely on him to be a number one back. I know he blocks well, but it's this. I find the size stature makes it really difficult, even if you are a really good back. And I think kind of Spencer Brown in the last couple of weeks, I think has done enough to probably establish more of a role as the number one back than McMahon did. But I that's another another one of these positions where I could see them looking towards getting some outside help, another back from another team or somewhere else. Because there's a couple guys who could potentially come in. I'm thinking guys like, does Will Stanback now make another round over there? Is there what's Daniel Adeboboy's status? What about Kadeem Carey or AJ Oled or um, Brady Oliveira? Like there's possibilities. I'm not saying that any of those guys are actually going to sign. But there's at least in the offseason, you can kind of start looking in those directions to see who is available and who might be willing to come to Toronto.
Rick has another comment. At least you guys haven't gone 1-17. But yes, Rick, but 2019, the Argos were 4-14. The Argos have had their lean and bad years, Rick. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind too, specifically with running back, is that they are still the most dime a dozen position in football. Like how many really have stellar careers of longer than 3 or 4 seasons? Not many.
Wow.
So
Saquon Barkley, Walter Payton. I'm sorry, I disagree with you, Nick. I do think the running back position is huge because football teams that win championships can run the ball and pass the ball as well. So to me, I disagree with you on the position importance of running backs. You also forget running backs. A good running back can pass protect, and they also can catch the ball out of the backfield. So they are very important, and I really feel the Argos need to address, besides their offensive line, they need to address the running backs and see who can help this team as well. Because one dimensional, you can't always count on your passing game in bad weather. So I still believe in the running game. Richard Chung. Hey, Richard, thank you for watching. He's watching on YouTube. He wants to ask us, do the Argos have their first round pick for this coming draft in 2026, Nick?
I believe they do. I think the only one they lost was that they lost their 7th because they acquired Chavez from Hamilton. They traded that one away, but I also got one back because they traded who is it? Frank. They traded shoot, I can't remember, but they traded one of the DBs to Ottawa. Not Franklin, but the other guy who played boundary halfback with him, Milton. So they got the 7th back. So I think a different 7th. So I think they've got all of them, or they may be up one from what they got in the Adeboboy trade. I can't remember, but anyways, I know they have their own first round draft pick. So the way things are going right now, they'll probably be picking either 2nd or 3rd, depending on how the rest of the season plays out.
Do you think the CFL should go to a draft lottery like the Major League Baseball and the NHL have done, the NBA too?
No, how many draft picks have 1st and 2nd overall have Edmonton and Ottawa had the last 5 years and they still suck? Like it's not like other leagues where the CFL falls in a really weird spot because of how the NFL draft lines up in relation, and it's because it's not like you can draft the best player coming into it in all of professional football, and they're going to want to play. A lot of it has to be balanced out based off of what Canadian players are being drafted, and you really take a risk. Do you take the objectively best Canadian on the board and not have them for 2 or 3 years, which is something the Argos have been able to take advantage of the last couple of years because of our success. We draft the best player in a position we didn't need right away, or do we get somebody who can play now? And fortunately, we've gotten really lucky with it, considering like Kevin Mittal, for instance. But often there's been times where you get burned by it. So yeah, it's not quite the same as other drafts. A draft lottery is honestly just a waste of time.
Richard Chung comments, the Blue Jays were up 1-0 over the Yankees. Well, last night they were up 6-1, Richard, and they lost. So I don't think 1-0 is a big deal. The Blue Jays better win this game tonight. I'm going to tell you this, Nick. If they don't, Game 5 might be back in Toronto, but their bullpen this is a bullpen game, and last night their bullpen was awful. So to me, the Jays better finish them off as well. Richard, thank you for watching. And Nick, we do have a special guest coming on. He is an Argo super fan, and he's from St. Louis, Missouri, and he's going to come on and say hello to you and come on for a couple of minutes. He's from St. Louis, Missouri. George Brown, who filled in for you a couple of months ago here on the Argo Bounce Podcast show. George, thank you for coming on. And this is my co-host, Nick Small.
Hey, George.
Nice to meet you, Chris and Nick, and nice to finally talk to you in person and virtually, Nick.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to have you here along with us tonight.
Yeah.
George, you want to show us your banners in the background?
Well, I'll show you some of them. So I got like the Rams. You know, I get these banners. You can order them on eBay for like about $10-20, and you know, and then they have all the years of like when they win the championship. So like I got about, in this room, it's kind of a big room. I got about like, let me count, 2, 4, 6, about 7 banners in this room. You know, and it has like all the years of like when, you know, they win. Like, and the Argos one is updated because it has the 2024 one. And I got that for like $12 on eBay. Funny thing I do want to mention though, I'm now having, with the tariffs, unfortunately, when I try to order some from Canada now, whether it's Real Sports, or eBay, now that I have to pay those shipping fees. So I've been kind of avoiding ordering stuff overseas now. So I'll probably be dialing it back, trying to get some sports memorabilia from Toronto.
Yeah,
What's your favorite? Go ahead, Nick.
Best advice I have for you there is come here for a game and get whatever you want and bring it back to you. We're not gonna go into the political situation there, but But we're always welcome here for an Argos game, and I know you did come to one at the beginning of the season.
Yep. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend Rudy, who's a Rider fan. He's actually going to go to the game Friday. He has season tickets, and this will be the first year, unfortunately, since I met him at the Grey Cup in 2022, that I don't go to an Argos Riders game up there just because of the scheduling this year. I mean, I just recently bought a house, so
nice.
I got to limit my play time a little bit because of that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We get another comment here from Rick from the Hamilton Sports Central. Rich, they have 10 draft picks. Wow. Okay, I did not know that. If you want to know any information, George, make sure you follow. His name is Rick. His handle on Twitter X is Hamilton Sports Central, or on YouTube. He's a Hamilton Tiger Cat season ticket holder. He's a Tiger Cat podcaster, but Rick knows the CFL as well as anybody. So that's somebody, if you want to follow him for CFL information, I would recommend him.
Yeah, to jump into the specifics about that, it's because we got the second from the Ryder Varga trade for Dejon Allen, and then we also got a 7th it was Milton from that trade, and then we got another one conditionally, a conditional 6th for Attaboy.
Richard Chung's got a question for George Brown here. How did George become a CFL fan and an Argo fan?
Well, it's kind of ironic. So I'm not originally from St. Louis. I just moved here recently, and I've lived in Connecticut and Cali. But when the Rams moved initially from St. Louis to LA, I protested one year and didn't watch them at all, and started watching the CFL instead because I was unhappy with it. I'm still unhappy with the move. I especially with how Stan Kroenke did the city dirty, but I've since kind of got over it. But I started watching the Argos and watching the CFL and the three, and what kind of attracted me was like the uniqueness of the game, which I do know that some of the maybe we can bring this up later. Some of the rule changes I'm not really happy about, like especially shrinking the field. But the uniqueness of the game that kind of like attracted me to that. And then the Argos kind of they're one of the most successful franchises, 19-time now Grey Cup champions. And they kind of have the Rams colors a little bit, a little darker blue. They actually more have like the cowboy colors, but I was like, oh, I'll go with them, and that's how I became a CFL fan. And I try to watch the CFL and the NFL religiously. Unfortunately, this year it's been kind of hard to follow the Argos, and part of it's also like, this has been kind of a down year as well. And then, like I said, with the move, it was kind of been difficult. But I can watch every game on CFL Plus or CBS Sports Network in the United States. So I have access to every game if I want to.
Hey, George, can you tell Nick and our audience, a lot of them are in Canada and the States too, which of the CFL rule changes that really you don't like the most? Is there one particular one that you're not happy about the most?
I mean, there's two that I equally dislike. I get why they're doing one of them, like moving the goalpost back. That is a safety safety issue, because you have people who could, it could be a hazard where someone could run into the goalpost. But I also like it because if I recall that Saskatchewan-Winnipeg game back in 2019, the ball got doinked on the thing, so on the upright, and that actually led to Winnipeg going to the Grey Cup that year. So I get it for the safety thing, but it also makes it different because of it becomes a part of the game. And then the shrinking of the field to 100 yards, to me, it's just like when they started moving the hashtags back, like the NFL, like now it's just like we're inching more and more closer to making it more like the NFL game. And, I'm pretty sure that there'll probably be other rule changes in a few years. They're going to probably test the waters where they're probably going to make it more like the NFL. And I like the CFL because it's unique, and I think it's a good brand of football. Like I did like the open field. Now that it's shrinking a little bit, I mean, I don't see, you're still going to see explosive plays, but those 110-yard plays, you're not going to see those as much anymore.
George, if you could say something to the CFL commissioner, Stuart Johnston, as a CFL fan, as an American fan, what would you say to the CFL commissioner?
Don't change the game too much. I mean, you see Rob Manfred, and I'm going to use baseball as an example. They did make a couple rule changes, like, for example, the pitch clock, where it made the game better. But then I also hear rumors that they want to do the golden bat rule, which is kind of like a gimmick. Like, some rule changes are good, but don't make so many rule changes where it just alienates your fans, because you got the diehards that won't come back if you make too many rule changes. So that's kind of what I would say to the commissioner.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've given my spiel already last week about my thoughts on the rule changes and how I've sort of wrestled with it. I definitely don't want to see anything that really kind of gimmicks the game, but at the same time, yeah, there's some things. The goalposts, I mean, I think all of us Canadian kids have some story where one of us ran into a goalpost, or you saw someone who ran into the goalpost. I was that kid. I ran into the goalpost one time because our goalposts on high school fields, they're not like the CFL style goalposts. They're a combined soccer goalpost, so they have two spots instead of just one. And yeah, I ran into one of those, and like anyone, I just got back up and kept playing. Like, you just forget it happened and move on. I think sometimes more than that. I think there's going to be some things that are definitely going to be a little bit taking some getting used to as they've changed the no more. You're not going to have nearly as many missed kick returns anymore. That's going to be pretty much dead because nobody's going to kick a field goal that they're not going to have the leg strength for anyways, unless they absolutely had no choice. And then, yeah, I mean, we've already seen some changes too. Like you mentioned, the hash marks have already shortened over the last couple of years. The thing that'll be really interesting, I think, in a couple of years' time is that I would like to ask someone like Ryan Dinwiddie or Scott Milanovich would be how much has your playbook changed because of these rule changes, or has it stuck the same, and or have you been calling certain types of plays more now that the field is opened up in the end zones, in the goal line?
We got another comment from Ghost. He wants to know what's up, George. And then Ghost has another comment. Have any former players in the NFL had a long career in the NFL? You must mean CFL. Yes, Joe Theismann, Warren Moon, Doug Flutie. There's been a number of players from the CFL that have had good long careers in the NFL as well.
Yeah, it doesn't happen quite to the same extent. Well, I guess for quarterbacks specifically, it happens a lot. Doug Flutie this week was a good example of someone to use as a case example that for the longest time he was thought of being too small to play in the NFL, which is why he got his time with the Calgary Stampeders and the Toronto Argonauts, and then he proved himself to be talented enough to go into the NFL finally, and he still holds that honor distinction of being the last guy to make a drop kick for a single point.
By the way, I was talking to former CFL executive and NFL executive Mike McCarthy, and he made a point too. This affects the CFL too. The NFL used to only have so many guys on a practice roster. They've now increased it to, I think, 17, I believe. So a lot of these guys that are on practice rosters that have expanded in the NFL normally would come back to the CFL. So that's something that he brought up to me in the media press box the other day too, with the NFL increasing the practice roster sizes, that some of these guys that would normally come back to the CFL are staying down in the NFL. And I believe one of the guys from the Browns is still on the practice roster from the Argos last year. Was it Ralph Hawley?
Yeah, it was Ralph Hawley. He's been still on the Browns practice roster. So you don't see quite as many. Typically now what you see is like a lot of guys in the CFL who go to the NFL, they'll often be in camps or in practice rosters. It's really hard to crack that roster though. Of course, we see Nathan Rourke try it there, and now his brother Curtis is experiencing that. Same with Taylor L. Gersma out of Laurier, whose contract is with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the CFL. Sticking with Blue Bombers, Chris Strevler was over there not too long ago. And then we also saw the one defensive lineman from BC play for the Detroit Lions before getting cut and then coming back. So not quite to the same extent where you have like many guys who are like legendary caliber for both. Warren Moon is still the only individual who's inducted in both the Canadian football and the NFL Football Hall of Fame. So it's really an anomaly. You don't see it happen too often, but definitely the potential is there if someone is of that talent. But part of the challenge is that if you're making, if you're a top tier CFL player and you're making 200,000 ish, maybe an upper 170s and up, it's really, really hard to then turn down being a practice roster guy in the NFL who's making 500K just being on that. The money's the big part of it.
Well, and it's not just quarterbacks. Stiggers has made it with the Jets from the Argonauts, and also Alex Singleton, linebacker with Calgary, has been in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles and now the Denver Broncos too. So the talent is there. And
Makai Polk.
Yeah, Makai Polk. Yeah. So the CFL has a lot of talent. It's just the NFL only has so many open spots. So some of these guys should be in the NFL and are not. It's called giving opportunities. Ghost wants to say, I met Earl Campbell back in the 90s, the former Houston Oilers running back, one of the best of all time. Warren Moon was an amazing quarterback. Yes, technically he really shouldn't have been in the CFL in the first place, but back in the 70s, they did not want black quarterbacks in the NFL, and Warren had to come to Canada, but it was thankful he did come to Canada because he was part of 5 Grey Cup teams with the Eskimos, now the Elks. Tommy Wilkinson was the starter for the first 2 Grey Cups, and then Warren Moon was the starter for the last 3 Grey Cups as well. And I've heard of Singleton too. Yeah, he had a good career with the Eagles, and he's now with Denver, and he won a Grey Cup with the Calgary Stampeders. So just because you play in the CFL doesn't mean you can't play in the NFL. And we've had NFL guys come here, like Terry Metcalf in the 70s and early 80s, struggled in the CFL. Ricky Williams from the Miami Dolphins and New Orleans Saints came to the CFL, and he struggled here too. So it's a different game.
Johnny Football got humbled real quick. That's for sure.
Johnny Manziel, yes. And I agree some players shouldn't be in the NFL. They should trade some CFL. I don't think that'll ever happen where those 2 leagues. I think he wants to know, should they trade some players in the NFL? I don't think you'll see ever see that happening.
Completely separate contracts. There's no nothing. It doesn't work.
Hey, George, I know you got to get going in a few minutes. So do you have a few questions or comments for my co-host Nick Small about the Argonauts and the CFL?
Well, I just kind of like what you alluded to before I came on. It's just the Argonauts kind of need to do a soft rebuild right now. It was a kind of really disappointing year this year. They do need to address the running back situation. I mentioned when I mentioned last week in the comments, the Argonauts have not had a good running back since AJ Ouellette 2 years ago. And the line is atrocious. 9 sacks. That's probably the number one thing they need to address. And then they need to kind of retool the defense a little bit. But when you have a salary cap and you have free agency and you have have all those factors, it's very hard to maintain a team, and keep everybody on board. So, sometimes you just got to go through these retooling processes. And, the CFL being only like a 9-team league, it's going to be kind of probably a shorter retool. I call it a retool instead of a full rebuild. And, maybe as early as next year, the Argos can get back into contention and get back into the Grey Cup. Back in 2022, I didn't expect them to go to the Grey Cup, let alone win it. And they did. And then 2024 was a big surprise. So it's the amount of time it takes to rebuild. It's in this league. They could be better. They could be in the Grey Cup next year, and this could all be behind us.
Hey, George, I'll get another comment. This one's kind of for you because I think our viewer Ghost is from the States. George, can you tell him what are some ways to get into the CFL more, especially being a CFL fan in the States?
Well, I think the problem I was looking for some alternative because of what I mentioned earlier with the Rams leaving and protesting for 1 year. But there isn't that much exposure down here. It's mainly college and the NFL. And I mean, we do have the UFL, and I'm also, just to let you know, I'm also a Battlehawks fan, and I have season tickets now that I live down here. That doesn't get that much exposure down here. And to be honest, I feel like that's going to be another spring after this season. This is going to be another spring football league that folds down here. But I think getting into the CFL more, it's kind of hard to answer that question. You have to kind of be looking for it. But the access down here needs to be better. Now, they have done a lot better with the CFL Plus, and it's free, by the way. So, like I said, I have access to any game I want anytime, but you don't see that much advertisement down here. They also have the CBS Sports Network, and they don't run that many ads for the CFL games. So they should be running ads, especially before the NFL season comes on board. the July 4th game. They've been broadcasting that the last few years. Like they should, and the Labor Day games, they should be advertising that more on the CBS Sports Network or CBS in general, or they own like Nickelodeon and Paramount as well. Like they maybe even do a deal with Paramount where they can stream it on Paramount. But there's not that much advertising down here. So unless you're looking for it, it's a lot of people don't even know about it.
Sounds like it's a lot of the same arguments that the marketing people who say that the CFL needs to market itself more to become more popular. It sounds like the same kind of thing that we hear a lot there. One thing I wanted to go back on and touch up a little bit too, because I know we've talked about the offensive line as a big cause for concern, and I took the liberty of bringing up the rosters from the Grey Cup winning roster in the Grey Cup game, and then the roster that they have now. And coming into it, like, we thought it wasn't too bad. We thought, well, there was the Dejon Allen trade, but then Dylan Giffin's been injured all year. We lost Gregor McKellar. Ryan Hunter's kind of been floating back and forth between left tackle and right tackle. And don't forget, he spent a number of games injured this year because he got hit by a car driving his scooter on the way to practice. And then that's really only left Vandal and Nicastro from the original starting goal line that's here now. I mean, Ergel wasn't on the lineup before when he started left tackle. I know last week we discussed the problems John Boss had on right tackle, and then Dox Taylor was injured last year. Shane Richards came back after playing in Edmonton last year and being cut. So there was a number of difficulties that the O-line faced.
George, before we get to you, George, before we let you go in a minute, Ghost wants to say I have also subscribed to your guys' YouTube channel, turned on notifications for the channel. Well, Ghost, we want to say thank you for doing that, and thank you for watching this show as well. And me and Nick, this is our third or fourth. I think this is our fourth year doing it. Originally, we started out on Twitter, or X, or whatever they call it next, and then we've kind of grown the show here. So thank you, Ghost, for coming on here.
It's been 4 because the year we started, they won the Grey Cup in 22.
So yeah. And George, what would you tell Argo fans? I know it was a tough year, 5-11, but what would you tell them as an Argos fan in the States?
I mean, I know there's a lot of things. I know you've alluded to it, and we've also talked about it on Instagram too, about like, the World Cup and how that's going to affect like the home games next year. I would just say there's a lot of factors that are going to be going into effect next year for the season, and a lot of things we all three of us probably don't agree with, but I think just trying to stay diligent and, just try to stick with your team, like even in a down year, like you bleed double blue in and out, whether they're winning a Grey Cup or they're going 1-17, like you gotta stick with your team. And there's going to be down years, but like I said, in the CFL, anything could happen, and next year could be different.
Well, look at last year. Hamilton missed the playoffs, and this year they have a good chance of getting to the Grey Cup. So the CFL is one league where you can go from missing the playoffs to being in the Grey Cup a year later with the right moves and a little bit of luck as well. And by the way, George, before I let you go, I've got a show on Friday live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show with a gentleman from Ottawa. His name is Howie Mooney, and he wrote a book about the unlikely story of the 1981 CFL's Ottawa Rough Riders, who finished 5-11 and won that year, and they nearly ended the Edmonton Eskimos Grey Cup in 81, and they were actually up 21-0 in that league. So if you get a chance Friday night, anyone who's watching this right now, check out Howie Mooney on Live with CDP this Friday at 7:00. We're going to talk about his book and behind the scenes of his book as well. And I remember that 81 Grey Cup. I was 9 years old, and they played it at the Big O in Montreal, and it was cold and snowy, and Edmonton was huge favorites. I can't remember, maybe 17 or 18-point favorites, and it probably would have been the greatest upset in CFL history if they had managed to hold on to that. I think it was 21-1 lead at halftime, and Edmonton's dynasty could have been ended that year, but to credit to the Edmonton Eskimos, they rallied and came back and won that game. So I'm really looking forward to that. By the way, Ghost is a friend of George's too, by the way.
I'm curious, cold and snowy at the Big O. Did they not have the roof on it, or are you talking about like just the
No
weather
roof.
outside?
They had no roof
They
in
didn't have the roof
1981.
then.
No,
Okay.
nope. And the turf was like cement.
Yeah, I'd believe it.
So, hey George, I know you got to get going at 7:45. So, final thoughts on this 2025 Toronto Argonauts, and just final thoughts on the Canadian football. Like, who's your CFL Grey Cup this year pick?
I'm gonna go with Saskatchewan. That's kind of who I'm pulling for. I got Saskatchewan and Hamilton in the finals. But I think Saskatchewan's going to win. And for my friend Rudy, my friend out there who I met at the Grey Cup in 2022, I'll root for them just for you.
Saskatchewan. Okay. Nick, do you have any thoughts on a Grey Cup prediction?
Yeah, I'm close. I'm leaning towards the Saskatchewan Montreal Grey Cup. I'm trying to think, but I don't think they've ever faced off in the. Oh yeah, they did 2009.
Yes.
Yeah, that was of course the 13th the 13th man game.
Yeah.
The most infamous one.
Hey George, I want to say thank you for giving us some time out of your busy schedule tonight, and you know you have you have an open invite to come back on the show again in the future, and hopefully we'll see you back at BMO Field next summer. Unfortunately, it won't be until probably Nick, the end of July 2026 before they can return home in Toronto.
Yeah, at least it depends. Yeah, there's so much in the air with this World Cup thing, uncertainty. It's definitely going to be the beginning of the season, so a lot of their schedule is going to be backloaded for home games in Toronto, minus of course the 3 that they've got to play as like basically additional road games. But the good news is we're bringing football to football-starved communities like Hamilton, Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan. So at least we're growing the game there.
Hey George, where can our audience follow you on social media?
I have Instagram. I don't have X. Mine is just Missouri Caracal owner. I do like just a fun fact about me. You know, I do follow like this Caracal like named Gosha, and they post funny videos. So like that's kind of why I name my username that.
Well, George, I want to say thank you for coming on here again, and look forward to seeing you back in Toronto next year, and looking forward to talking CFL playoffs with you, because the CFL playoffs will start in probably about 2 or 3 weeks as well, and it's going to be very interesting this year as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and looking forward to next year as well.
Is that an Argos hat you're wearing?
Yes.
Oh, you got the old Shield hat. Is that your favorite logo?
Yeah, this is. I don't like the boat logo. I'm not really a fan of it. I like the Shield logo.
Oh, all right. I'm the boat logo. I like the one from 59 to 75, and then the one from 76 to 88. This one is good too, but it's a nice hat. But hey, Nick, do you have any fun?
That's okay. I'm a 96, 97 logo fan. So the Jason with the Shield logo, back when they used actual Cambridge blue, like the more kind of turquoisey or like aquamarine, like green blue that everybody hated. That's actually the logo I enjoyed the best out of all of them. So to each their own.
Actually, Nick, I would like to see that before I go. Like, I would like to see that logo come back, but without the green. The green though, or the teal blue.
Nick, do you have a final question for George before we let him go?
Nope. I'm all good. All my questions have been answered. It's been really great to have you joining us today. And we're definitely keep a spot at the table open if you ever want to come back on. 3-way panels, nice and fun, and hopefully we can do it during the middle of the season when we have more things to talk about. As things are kind of right now, as you can tell, things are kind of slowing down and coming to an end for the Argos. So we're just kind of looking at evaluating and seeing what they have in plans going forward for 2026.
All right. Well, George, thank you for doing this, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, buddy?
All right, take care. Have a good one.
Go Argos. Thanks, George.
Go Argos. Bye.
All right, Nick, before we still got another 15 minutes or so, I'm going to play a video of a pregame interview with Ben Grant, and he's also going to give us his thoughts on some of the CFL changes as well. And before we play that video clip, Richard Chung, who's an Argonaut season ticket holder and a friend of Nick and mine, the Argos defensive line coach Greg Marshall played on that Ottawa Rough Riders team in 1981. So, Nick, if you ever get a chance, watch that 81 Grey Cup on YouTube. It really was sort of like Goliath against the underdog, David against the Goliath. And that's why I love the CFL, because nobody in their right mind would have picked Ottawa, and they were very close to winning that Grey Cup in 81.
Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. Nobody picked Toronto to win in 2017 or 2022 or 2024. So.
But Ottawa in 81 was bad. Like, they had a terrible record, a terrible season, and then all of a sudden they turned it around. They got themselves into the playoffs with their record 5-11, and then they nearly upset Edmonton. I know the Argos had a couple underdog teams win the Grey Cup, but I'm telling you, Ottawa, I think that Grey Cup still has the biggest point spread out of all the Grey Cups. I'm going to have to research that, or get Rick from the Hamilton Sports Central to research the biggest point spreads in Grey Cup history.
Well, if you just, I mean, I don't know about like betting spreads, but if you look at to see the actual point differential, you can just go on to the Wikipedia, and it's right. All the final scores are right there, so it should be easy to figure out.
All right. Well, what we're going to do is play a pregame interview I did with Ben Grant, the radio analyst of the Toronto Argonauts on TSN 1050. As we play this video, if you guys have any more comments or questions before me and Nick wrap this show up in about 15 minutes or so, please put them in the comments section as well. And remember to hit subscribe, like, and share to my YouTube channel, Chris Pomay, Live with CDP Talk Show. And also Nick Small has his YouTube channel as well. I'll get Nick to promote his YouTube channel once we're done this video clip with Ben Grant from the Toronto Argonauts on TSN 1050. Pomay here live at BMO Field here on the Saturday, October 4th, 2025 for today's matchup between the 5-10 Toronto Argonauts and the 9-6 Hamilton Tiger Cats. Both teams are coming off losses last week, and I have the radio analyst of the Toronto Argonauts on TSN 1050, Ben Grant. Ben, thoughts on today's matchup with Hamilton?
Well, it's a huge game for Toronto, obviously, and Hamilton needs this one too. They would like to wrap things up in the East, but for the Argos, it's must win here on out, and so it's kind of it's like felt playoffy over the last few weeks anyway, and this one's going to feel like it today, no doubt.
The Argonauts are coming off another close loss to BC last week, 27-22. Just explain for my audience, obviously the Argos have to win out, but what else has to happen for the Argos to get a crossover?
So the Argos have to win out, which means beating Hamilton today, means beating Calgary, and then beating Saskatchewan. Both of those are on the road. That's not going to be easy, but they also need help. So there are three teams that they could technically pass, or at least tie, which is good enough to pass in a crossover situation. So you've got BC, you've got Winnipeg, and you've got Calgary. If any of those teams lose out while Toronto wins out, then Toronto will have a playoff spot. Now, Calgary's got one extra game in there, so that makes it a little bit tougher, but at least there are three options. You're not just counting on one single team needing to lose out, but there's no question the Argos need help. It starts with them. If they don't take care of their own business, it doesn't matter. So it starts with a win today against Hamilton.
Ben, I know last week they lost 27-22 against BC on the road. What were some positives out of that game for Argo fans?
Well, I think, getting Nick Arbuckle back at all, I know he didn't play the way that we've seen him play over the last few weeks, but we weren't even sure that Arbuckle was going to be back even this week, going back a couple weeks ago when Coach Dinwiddie was speculating as to the amount of time he'd be missing. So that was a real positive. I also thought the defense played very well. Nathan Rourke's a great quarterback. They forced turnovers, and they were in that game right to the end, even with the offense not putting up its usual 30 points, which has just kind of been how Toronto has rolled this season. They struggled a bit last week, but the defense kept them in it and showed that if they play all three phases, they can beat anybody.
Thoughts on the running game the entire year? It just seems like other than maybe one or two games, they just haven't been able to establish it this year.
It's been tough. There's no question it's been tough. And I think part of the problem is that teams have been taking that away, aiming to take away the running game and let Nick Arbuckle throw. But that may have shifted because Arbuckle keeps throwing for like 500 yards. So with that being the case, BC last week had a different philosophy. They kind of backed up. They had a shell. They were preventing those deep passes. So we'll see what Hamilton does today. If they want to play a shell as well, I think Toronto will be able to run. But if they come up, hell-bent on stopping the run, it's going to be tough. But I think the Argos will be okay with that because Nick Arbuckle's shown that if you don't play guys deep, he will burn you.
Any chance Chad Kelly returns this year?
It doesn't seem like it. I don't know. I never know anything, but it doesn't seem like it. At this point, with only a few weeks left, it would be even if things felt great for him, it's just not. There's no time. There's no affordability, and you can't have a bad game. There's not time for that. So I think at this point, even if he was ready to go, you probably wouldn't because the season's on the line, and you can't afford for that warm-up period it would take any player returning from this amount of time off due to injury.
Thoughts on today's opponent, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who are coming off a 40-3 loss to Winnipeg last Saturday. What do you expect to see from them today?
I don't expect to see what we saw last week. I don't think anybody did. Hamilton's a really exciting team to watch. I've enjoyed watching them this season. Bo Levi Mitchell's throwing the ball, as well as Old Bo through the football. And I don't know, go back like a year and a half or 2 years, I don't know if we thought that was in him. And he's been playing great football. The running game's now going for Hamilton too with Greg Bell. So they are an offensive show. The defense has struggled at times, and so we'll see. Are they going to put forward a defensive performance like last week against Winnipeg, in which case Toronto can take advantage of it? Or are they going to play the way that all their individual players are capable of playing, which is a very high level, and sort of finally mesh together as a team and give the Argos some real trouble?
What are some keys to an Argos win over Hamilton today, in your opinion?
Completion percentage is one of the biggest things. I think Toronto needs to keep marching down the field. They need to play aggressively too. They can't just settle for especially short field goals, seeing 20-yard field goals and things like that. I just feel this is a situation where Toronto's going to need to score touchdowns instead of field goals. I'd like to see them be aggressive and high percentage passes for Arbuckle so that they can work their way down the field. And if the run game's not going, I think abandoning that early is not necessarily a bad thing. We've seen Coach Dinwiddie do that in the past, where if it's not rolling, he'll just go to the air, and he trusts Nick to be able to make the throws. So that completion percentage number, I think, is going to be key.
What do you thought on some of the CFL changes? Obviously, there's been people that are for them and against them. So, Ben, I want to get your insights on these changes coming up in 26 and 27 across the league.
Yeah, I think everyone that's either for them or against them, remember that we're all sort of coming from the same place. Like, I've loved the CFL my entire life. I think it's the most exciting version of football. And most CFL fans do. They think that. Whether they're for the rules or against it, at the end of the day, they're cheering for the CFL, and they want the CFL to succeed. And ironically, both sides, whether you're for or against, believe that their path is the greatest chance to make the CFL most successful. And I'm in the group that is for the rule changes. Now, I don't love every single one of them. I don't know that I would have personally have touched the Rouge rule, but I'm fine with it. It doesn't really bother me. That wasn't there were things that I was hanging on to, like 3 downs, 12 players, the waggle, the wide field, like those things I don't think can be touched. The other things I do think improves the game. I've been asking for the goalpost to be moved for about 35 years, and finally, at least that, because as a player, I've run into them. As a coach, I've sworn about having not being able to pass over the middle and down near the goal line. And so, with all that in mind, I like these rule changes, and I love the fact that it is now easier to get this playing surface inside almost any soccer stadium in the world. I think that's fantastic because the playing surface that we've got currently, it only fits in like 7 places in the world. There's only, even in Canada, it doesn't fit in 2 of the 9 stadiums. And so I think these are just common sense changes. They're not taking away the important stuff, the stuff that makes the CFL unique and makes it exciting. And the other changes are going to make it more aesthetically pleasing, make it more convenient, and be able to take the show on the road.
Finally, Ben, what are your thoughts on MLSE's partnership with the Buffalo Bills, and today being Buffalo Bills Day here with Doug Flutie and Jim Kelly being here?
Yeah, the first ever Friends of Football game, or Future Football game, is very exciting because you've got the biggest thing is it's about kids. You got 200 kids that are going to be here today that participated in the camp that was co-run by the Buffalo Bills and the Toronto Argonauts. This is young kids out playing football. The more of that we can have happen, the better. And like I said, I've been a CFL fan for my whole life. I've been an NFL fan for most of my life too. And so I don't see why you can't do both. And so if you want to put the power of MLSE and the power of the NFL and the Buffalo Bills together, I'm all for it, especially if the end result is more kids around the GTA playing football, playing flag football, whatever it is. I'm for it. So I can't wait to see how this day goes. We've never had one like it. So let's see. I'm excited.
Finally, Ben, what time is your broadcast with Mike Hogan today on TSN 1050, and where can people follow you on social media?
So you can tune in at 2:30 for our pregame show. The kickoff's at 3 o'clock. We'll have that for you as well on TSN 1050. If you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Ben_Grant, and on Blue Sky, it's at Coach Ben Grant.
And X's and O's right after the game today, correct?
Yeah, the X's and Argos podcast always follows every Argos game, and we've got a pregame show midweek as well. If you want to check that out on your favorite podcast provider, just look up X's and Argos.
Ben, well, thank you so much, and have a great game call with Mike Hogan, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Oh, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Ben Grant from TSN 1050. Nick, what are your thoughts on the interview with Ben Grant?
A lot to unpack there, but I think the biggest one there, with the benefits of hindsight, as we hear the strategy for Hamilton of shutting down the Argos run game, well, they decided to do the exact opposite by getting rid of Nick Arbuckle on the second drive of the game. It all sure went to heck after that for the Argonauts. I think the only real highlight in the first half was when Tim Croker spun the little towel around to signal the end of the half.
Was that Nick Arbuckle's last game of the Toronto Argonauts, or do you feel he'll be back with the team next year?
It could very well be. I don't know. It's hard to tell because, when the way things were going on before his first injury, the thought was, oh well, there's other teams that could use him as a second string, and he proved he was capable of doing it. With these last couple injuries, it's really hard to tell, and I think what it's ultimately going to come down to is, I think it's pretty clear Chad's going to be the number one coming in. And I think after a full 2 years now, you got to think he's healthy enough to be ready to start right out of camp. The question then becomes, is Arbuckle willing to come in the Argos to be number two, or would he rather be in another organization being number one? And I think that's where it's way too early to tell, but that's when it comes down, to family decisions, because now you got to uproot and move to another city. Does any other team even really want him either as a one or a two over whoever they've got right now? I'm looking at maybe someone like Calgary, who doesn't really have a number two behind Vernon Adams right now, and you've seen them struggle when Vernon's been out for plays or parts of the game. Maybe BC, I don't know. So, but yeah, it's too difficult to tell. Because I can kind of see it go either way. It's all going to really come down to Nick's own feelings and decision towards that. But I'm sure the door's open there if he wants to come back.
Daggy, Horn, do you feel these last two games, one of them will probably remain with the team? Do you feel like these two games right here are going to determine which one will be both back? And what are your thoughts on Max Dugan, too? Is he in their plans for 2026?
I have no clue. Honestly, all three could be gone as far as I know. Because Daggy's been okay, but he's still a step below Arbuckle even, and bringing that point up that Ben Grant made about completion percentage. This last game, he was 34 for 49 for 329 yards, so at about a 69%. By comparison, Bo Levi Mitchell was 72. He was 18 for 25 for about the same amount of yardage, 320 yards, 2 TDs. But the big glaring difference was that Daggy threw 4 interceptions, and there were some throws in that game that just looked like those kind of throws that you're trying to play hero ball and just throw it deep downfield, praying you're just praying that your guy's going to come down with it, and it's not even anywhere close. And so it was just an annoying game, frustrating game to watch. Like I said, I could see all three of them being gone. And I mean, I know it's easy to say that, oh, you haven't seen anything out of Tucker Horn yet, but it's really hard to build quarterbacks. So if the opportunity arrives in the offseason, you've got Kelly back. I don't know if you're necessarily looking to bring now 2 rookies in Dugan and Tucker Horn or something else. It's especially if it means that Nick's not coming back. So because I don't think Jared Dagey's necessarily the solution either. Not that this year really matters anyways. This can be kind of a way you can focus on development now instead of straight desperation kind of playing now.
As a season ticket holder and as a longtime fan, Nick, what are you looking to see from the Argonauts in their final 2 games in the regular season against Saskatchewan and Calgary?
Really, just like I've seen all year in terms of like practice, it's going to practice and seeing that the drive and the energy is still there. And I think even now, like I will admit I didn't get to go to practice this week, but in all the other times I've been in, as things are on the edge, like the vibe among like the coaching staff and practice and all that is still really good. And what that tells to me is to kind of what we brought up at the very beginning of the show. There's not going to be like major coaching changes or like the whole kind of ship being flipped upside down and staff replaced. I don't see a lot of that because like, when you go to practice and how it goes, if a coach has lost the room and the players don't care, but I've never seen that no matter how things have been, whether they've come off a 2 or 3 game win streak or a 2 or 3 game losing streak, the vibe is very much the same and the energy is really good. So I just want to see that to carry in the off season. What that tells me is that the team is ready to work towards building this year. And I think a lot of it has sort of came out of how the beginning of the season went with Chad Kelly and sort of everything else going on around that. There was that kind of energy to that kind of thing, mindset that, well, it's probably due now that we have a rough year. Let's just focus on building up what we've got and making a better run at it next year. Because there were a lot of games that we've seen that came down to like 1 or 2 little plays and the Argo Bounce not quite going in our favor. So if it can go back in our favor then next year, well, then we're as good as gold to win the Grey Cup again, or at least contend for it.
One thing, Nick, every time the Argos seem to have a good crowd at BMO Field, they seem to lay an egg, and unfortunately they did against Hamilton. They had a great day for weather. This year has been great for weather at BMO Field. They had 19,846 fans. How many of those fans can they convert into coming back next year as season ticket holders or occasional fans?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, what we have seen is to my kind of internal battle I was talking about last week, my monologue. I mean, it has worked. It's proven that the product on the field doesn't necessarily have to be the best if you can market it well. And I think that's what we've seen with the Bills partnership. So if this leads to more of this kind of thing, yeah, the historian in me doesn't really like this kind of stuff when you're not really talking about some cool facts and about kind of the legacy of the team or the league. But if it's drawing people in, if people are drawn those alternative attractions by having Doug Flutie and Jim Kelly or whoever else in, I think the thing that was really, to me that I was happy by is that it felt like an Argos game. It's not like it's flipped on its head and it's becoming something totally different. It's still very much has felt like it always has. So I think if we're finally getting that marketing, if we make it to draw people in and people buy in to these other things going on, I still think it'll be successful.
What were some of your most memorable Argo games this season and at BMO Field, and how difficult will seeing the team won't be back there until probably the middle or into July 2026?
Yeah, well, I got really lucky. I'll skip the at BMO Field part first, but I will say that the 2 big things that kind of meant a lot to me, well, 3 things really that meant a lot to me personally this year was I got to do a lot more travel. Of course, the big one that I'm super proud of is myself, Connor, Dallas, Charlotte, and then there's Rick, and then a couple other individuals who joined us on parts of it, that we were able to do the walk from BMO Field to Tim Hortons Stadium, Hamilton Stadium for the CFL fans fight cancer. And then additionally, at the very beginning of the year, was able to go and watch game 1 of the season with my dad in Montreal, and then going on Canada Day for the Canada Day game in Ottawa. So really this year, my enjoyment has been the travel, going to see so many of the other stadiums that our great league has to offer, our great country has. And I encourage people in the next 3 years, take advantage of it and really get to see all the amazing things that this country has to offer. In BMO Field specifically, it is going to be tough because it really has felt like a true home now. And the atmosphere has been really good for that. I think, as we've seen with Lirim Haverlahu's walk-off field goals, the one in Hamilton, and then following the week up after that, I think was against BC, to see things like that in one of the best venues in the CFL. It's more compact. You've got some of the best sight lines. I find better than most of the other stadiums I've been to. The crowd, when they get into it, it's as loud as anywhere else. I think you don't need the blowhorns like you do in Montreal to get that noise.
Or the cowbells. I can't stand the cowbells.
Yeah, cowbells are fine.
Nope.
But you're not in outer space like you are in the Hamilton press box area up there. So you're not. And I mean, Montreal's nice, but it is a little aged. Same with Calgary. But there's something about kind of the quaint charm, and with these renovations to BMO Field, if it can use that again as a thing to draw more people in once the renovations are done, and it really feels like it's full like that for every game, I think it might end up becoming one of, if not the best atmosphere out of any of the CFL stadiums, because it is a lot of fun. And shout out to great individuals who make it what it is. Of course, Adam Goss, of course, our beloved PA announcer, the in-game stadium host, Sean and Jess, who do all the game day programming, the contests and events, Mike Hogan, Ben Grant for the amazing radio commentary they've provided all year long, and everybody else who I've missed mentioning among the ticketing staff and sales staff and the hospitality workers there who put their day jobs it is to make sure the experience is pleasant, and it's always a really fun atmosphere at BMO Field. The other one I will plug into is that getting to be in the VIP Coinbase Lounge with my mom for the Winnipeg game was a lot of fun as well. If you have the opportunity to enter in those contests, do so, and go at least once in your lifetime, maybe once a year. Think about spending that little bit of extra money for a game to hang out in one of those experiences, because it is a lot of fun, and it is kind of cool to be treated like a VIP for a game.
By the way, they gave out a prize on Saturday at BMO Field, and guess what section and row seat that came up? Section 115, row 10, seat 2. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was in the media press box. So the one time I'm not going as a fan, I actually could have won a prize.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Unfortunately, I was looking around and seeing where all the seats, the ones were being given out on. That's the only downside when you sit in the 200 level. The cannon sometimes malfunctions. The arms don't reach that high. So if you're looking for those kind of things, yeah, definitely get a 100 level seat. But I will gladly stay in 224 because that is my home at BMO Field.
I like the end zone seats in the press box. By the way, one thing about the CFL Commissioner, Stuart Johnson, I've met him twice. He's very approachable, and he is very open to He's very open to answering your questions. So I was able to get in about 6 or 7 questions to him about the changes and some of my concerns. And I just want to, I can't go into all the details, but I just want to say thank you to the CFL Commissioner, Stuart Johnson, just for being really approachable and friendly. And that's what this league needs. And as much as I love the NFL, there's no way I'd be able to approach Roger Goodell and say, hey, Roger, tell us about the changes to the NFL and stuff like that. So that's what I love about this league, and being able to talk to people like him, Stuart Johnson, and also former CFL executive, NFL executive Mike McCarthy, who's semi-retired, in the press box as well. A lot of great guys. Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator, or formerly of the Hamilton Spectator, and Scott Radley as well. So getting to know people from around the league, as much as I love the Argos, you get to know these guys from the other teams, and you want to see all all the teams in the league do well.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, that's at least we have the fans say the league to look forward to coming up at the Grey Cup. Yeah, a little envious that I still haven't had a chance to say hello to him, but I'm sure that time will come one day.
Yep.
It'll be a Titanic meetup between Argo fan and nobody, Nick Small, and Commissioner Stuart Johnson. That'll be a fun discussion to be had.
Hey, Nick, as we wrap up this show, the CFL Power Rankings for Week 19, I'm going to start first. I've got Saskatchewan still number 1. Hamilton, I got number 2 now. Montreal 3, BC 4, Winnipeg 5, Calgary's dropped to 6, Edmonton 7, the Argonauts 8, and Ottawa 9th.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement. We'll see how things go if Toronto can maybe bump it up to third last on that list. But yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with it. Before we move on to our other picks this week, I do want to make sure I give an OUA shout out. There were some really good games on this week, but it was the biggest one of them all, of course, probably the biggest OUA event of the year, the Panda game, the Panda Bowl. Shout out to Carleton for beating Ottawa. It's their first win in the series since 2015, so that's 9 years. Managed to pull the 2014 upset win, I would say, an upset, and made Ottawa look pretty pedestrian offensively for most of that game. So big shout out to them. We only got 2 more weeks of U Sports football left, so there's not really a whole lot left to go on. A couple games that might be a little lopsided. Western is in York on October 10th. Laurier hosts Carleton, Waterloo and McMaster, and then on the 11th, Windsor and Ottawa. So yeah, we're getting to the stretch. Western and Laurier are still 6-0, and bar an upset, it's almost extremely likely that both teams are going to go in 7-0 to the finale the week after on the 18th with Laurier and Western.
Finally, Nick, CFL Week 19 picks. We've got Toronto and Saskatchewan. Saturday, I'm going to be in Hamilton covering the Calgary-Hamilton game as media. Then we've got Winnipeg and Edmonton, and then our Canadian Thanksgiving, yes, for our American audiences, is always a month and a half before yours. Monday, October 13th. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving to everybody. And this year's game will be Ottawa in Montreal. Would you like to see a Thanksgiving Day in the future being played in Toronto at 1 o'clock?
I'd be open for it. I don't know why you start with Canadian Thanksgiving, because we're a Canadian show. It's just Thanksgiving.
No, we're an international show. We're everywhere.
Well,
International.
Well, anyways, it's Thanksgiving. So for Thanksgiving weekend, yeah, I've got Saskatchewan over Toronto. I think between not having guys like Arbuckle and McManus, I think there's going to be too many guys resting. And Saskatchewan, I think, still has a little bit to prove. They're kind of a little bit hiccupy right now. Not that there's any sense for panic, but I think Saskatchewan wants to clinch that home West final. So I'm picking Saskatchewan over Toronto. Hamilton, I have winning. Calgary at home. Calgary just does not look good right now. And then Winnipeg and Edmonton, I'm going to take Winnipeg on the road. And then I'm going to take Montreal to continue their hot streak going in against Ottawa on the Thanksgiving Monday.
I've got Saskatchewan winning as well. Calgary and Hamilton, Nick. Is it possible Hamilton could have a little letdown after the big win against the Argonauts?
They had their letdown the week before when they got absolutely destroyed by Winnipeg.
Yeah. So I think Hamilton will pull this game off, but I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be competitive. Winnipeg and Edmonton, I'm going to go with the Blue Bombers. And then the Thanksgiving Day game, Ottawa and Montreal. Unless Ottawa pulls up a big upset. I think Ottawa, there's going to be major changes to the coaching staff and the roster. The fan base isn't happy there, and I can't see them wanting to keep status quo for 2026.
Yeah, anytime you're making progress and then there's a regression like this, unfortunately, that's how it goes. And this is a good contrast to versus what's happening in Toronto, where you see like the vibes are good. There's still a lot of faith in the coaching staff, and like it's seen as more just struggles executing, for lack of a better word. Where we see in Ottawa, like it definitely seems like Ottawa's not really being at their full potential. And I think ultimately that's where it does end up leading to coaching changes being made. So that's where I can kind of see, probably not this year with only 2-3 weeks left, depending on what bye weeks where they fall, but Ottawa's got to play all 3 weeks, so we'll see what happens. But I think definitely in the off season there's probably going to be some changes being made in Ottawa. Maybe a game before, sometimes you see a new coach come in, and I mean we've kind of talked about that with what's his name returning back after head coaching in BC last year and being let go, but coming back to Ottawa. But I don't see that happening.
I forgot what I was going to mention. I can't believe it. I guess, which game are you looking forward to watching most this week? I guess Toronto, Saskatchewan, but I really feel the Calgary Hamilton game could be the best game of the week.
I'm looking forward to the Ottawa Montreal game, actually, just because I know I'm going to be sitting at my TV. I've got a 4-pound turkey that we paid like $13 for, defrosting in a cooler right now. So I love Thanksgiving dinner. It's probably one of my favorite holidays of the year, and the fact that we get to watch football while enjoying it makes it all the more special.
Should Stuart Johnston, the CFL commissioner, look at moving the Thanksgiving game around the league? Give every city a chance to host it.
I mean, I'd be open to it, but I think Montreal's a good place to host it, given that they don't really have the Labor Day game like the others do. I think it's pretty fair to have it in a place like Montreal, and I think it's pretty emblematic of the Canadian identity.
And before we wrap up this show, if you're looking for 2026 Toronto Argonauts season tickets, you can contact the Toronto Argonauts account coordinator, Jada Christian, at 416-815-6139, or via email, jada.christian@mlse.com. And I want to say thank you to Jada this year for being Nick and I's season ticket holder representative, and hopefully she'll be back next year as well. So if you're looking for tickets, check out Jada Christian again, and all her information is on the ticker below.
Yep, I know one of the many individuals I forgot to mention by name. The season ticketing team has been a huge help all year long, and it can be a very hard job because it tends to be an entry level position, but you're given a big amount of responsibility, being a direct liaison between the organization and the fans. So we appreciate everything that you guys do, and we're really thankful to have you. And we're hoping that guys will continue helping us out next year. We're always really grateful.
Finally, Nick, where can our audience follow you and contact you on social media or email?
Yep, if you need to DM me, you can just message me either at Twitter at NickSmall38, or you can friend me on Facebook, same name. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to be slowly coming back into the Twitterverse. As I've kind of taken the mental break from it, it's been a good help, not only with the CFL kind of controversy or argument, debate, whatever you want to call it, but also other things I've noticed that are really kind of prevalent right now on X. A lot of weird AI videos and stuff. It was kind of beneficial to get more in touch with reality for a bit, and just remember that your friendships all go beyond what 140 character message is on a social media website. So keep that in mind.
I just want to wish you and your family a happy Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday, October 13th. And for everyone that's watching this show live stream or audio who are in Canada, happy Canadian Thanksgiving, and look forward to the Ottawa-Montreal game at 1 o'clock on TSN. And yours truly will be at Hamilton Stadium. They still haven't found a name for that stadium yet, for the Stamps and Tiger Cats, 3 o'clock on Saturday. TSN's Matthew Shinati won't be there. He'll be covering soccer. So I'm not sure who's going to be the sideline reporter that day.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, your mom, your family, everybody else. And happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. Enjoy the football this weekend. Let's hope the Argos can still find a way to pull it together for a win. Take care and all the best. And as always, go Argos.
Go Argo. Thanks, Nick. All right, everyone. That wraps up season 4, episode 14 of the Argo Bounce podcast show with co-host Nick Small and myself. Want to say thank you to everyone watching tonight or listening on our audio platforms. And thank you to Richard Chong and Rick and Ghost and our special guest tonight, George Brown, a Toronto Argonauts and CFL fan from the state of Missouri, just outside of St. Louis as well. So thank you to George Brown and to everyone with your comments and questions tonight as well. Before I wrap up the show, if you're looking to advertise your business and product on the Argo Bounce podcast show, please, you can DM me on my social media pages or cpomay19@gmail.com. Or if you prefer to contact Nick, please contact Nick on his social media platforms. He's on Twitter, X, and he's also on Facebook as well. But if you're looking to advertise on the Argo Bounce podcast show, please do so. Nick and I were going to do a couple more shows before we wrap up season 4. And this is the first time in 4 years since I've known Nick that we're not going to have playoff shows. And hopefully the Toronto Argonauts can rebound. I think they will rebound in 2026 as well. And one thing I forgot to mention, the first Peter Martin Memorial Golf Tournament was this Monday at Lionheads Golf Course in Brampton. So I'm hoping to bring somebody on that was involved with the Peter Martin Memorial Golf Tournament and talk about that golf tournament and how much money they raised as well. So stay tuned for that as well. And by the way, before we wrap up this show, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is going to be on Friday, October 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern, with special guest Howie Mooney, the author of a book called The Unlikely Story, How the 1981 CFL's Ottawa Rough Riders just almost became a miracle. They were very close to upsetting the back-to-back 3-time Grey Cup champion Edmonton Eskimos at the Big O in Montreal in 1981. So we're going to talk to Howie Mooney about his 4th book, about the unlikely story, how the Ottawa Rough Riders nearly became a miracle, and also a little bit about his media career. And he's also a co-host of the podcast show called the Sports Lunatics Show. It's kind of a sports historical perspective podcast show as well. So Howie Mooney will be on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I have more guests and more shows booked for next week. And episode 15 of the Argo Bounce podcast show will return next week, as me and Nick Small will break down the Argos-Saskatchewan game and preview their regular season and 2025 final against the Calgary Stampeders on October 18th at 7 o'clock at Calgary as well. Again, I want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. And the next Toronto Argonauts game is this Friday, October 10th at 9 p.m. when they take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders from Mosaic Field. You can watch the game on TSN, or if you prefer, you can listen to Mike Hogan and Ben Grant on TSN 1050. Pre-game show would be probably around 8:30, and kickoff will be 9 o'clock as well. So Argonauts, Saskatchewan, 9 o'clock this Friday night. Check out the Argos website, argonauts.ca. I want to say thank you to Nick Small, the co-host, and George Brown, the special guest, and everyone for watching and listening to the Argo Bounce podcast show. As always, go Argos, and we'll see you here next week for episode 15 of the Argo Bounce podcast show. Good night, everybody, and make sure you enjoy the CFL games this weekend, and happy Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday, October 13th. Talk to you guys later. Go Argos.
together fight the foe, foe, foe. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the